Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Now I was thinking I wouldn't cast this match, just be a humble spectator, pay attention as I'm apt to do, try and learn some new strategies and always pay attention, always learning from the game. You know, I always say learning from experience, best teacher there is. And then I noticed something interesting. These teams have chosen some bizarre spots, some bizarre spawn locations for their commanders here on Koom Valley. Now, for anybody who's played Beyond All Reason for any amount of time, Koom Valley should be pretty familiar. It's one of those maps that pops up all the time. The pros love it, and mostly because it has a lot of interesting dynamics to it, but also because it's extremely balanced. However, it's balanced around a meta that revolves around spawn locations, which is why I think this will be an interesting match. It will be very asymmetric. And as you can see, I'll use this right-hand side team, the Blues, in order to illustrate. Debts has very kindly marked out the spawn locations that you typically want to go for on Koom Valley. You can see you would usually have one up here on this mountain and then one below. You would typically have two in the middle, and then mirrored on the other side, you would have one down here and one up on this mountain. Then you would have two in the back line. Now, instead, Blues have gone for three in the back line and two in the, or rather, 5 in the front line, as opposed to 6. But it may actually work out for them, despite them not knowing it, because the other team has also gone for 5 in the front line and 3 in the back. So we will actually end up with an even number of players playing an even number of spots. I wouldn't recommend this in your own games, because if you're playing in a lobby with anybody who's, you know, I would say maybe 20 true skill or higher, they're going to know the right spots to start on Koom Valley. It does matter a lot on this map. And you're probably going to get a lot of resistance, especially from your own team. Looks like there's a bit of a lag spike for Malekith. Malekith. Something like that. I do love the names in this. Do love the names. We'd see some early tech aggression coming out from Grey Bishop. I love to see that, except that he's about to find Denchtai's commander. He sees the commander and avoids it. It's a pro level move right there. You saw that reaction speed? 2-second reaction speed. That's what we love to see. Oh, let's see. What else can we find here? Looks like Deaths has taken it upon himself to coordinate exactly who gets what medal. Can be a bit frustrating to play with that kind of person, but it is useful when they're correct. And I would say right now they mostly are. Two of these 3 ticks, the 3 bad brothers that you know so well. Riding on down in history, Run DMC, and Mike D. Looks like they're going to try and snipe a radar tower, pay for it with their lives. Now this other band of brothers, looks like they were able to take out a mech. That's very nice. Early eco damage, always wonderful to see. We see a vehicle being shot way out here to the front. It's a very eager construction vehicle, ready to get out to the front lines. I don't know, looks like Malekith has dropped, actually. What a shame. Well, either you'll be seeing this and someone will have taken, or you won't. And there we go with the recording. But I guess if you're watching this, that means someone has taken and is able to hold on for Malekith. I'm going to keep going because I'm assuming that his team will take, even though I don't know it at the time. This is, of course, recorded live. I like to record a lot of these live. Although that does remind me, I have officially set up the Brightworks Replays email account. That's just Brightworks Replays. R-E-P-L-A-Y-S. Just like that. And if you have any interesting replays that you'd like me to cast, or just like me to take a look at, I'm more than happy for you to send them over to that email. Just finish it. Just like that. And if you send them on over to that email, I'll be more than happy to take a look at them. Already gotten some nice contact from some of you guys and really appreciate it. Love seeing it. So if you have a particularly good game or something that you think is worth highlighting, or you just want me to commentate one of your matches that you found particularly enjoyable, more than happy to do so if you send it on over to that email. You just go into your replays and hit download, and that allows you to, or rather you go into your replays and it'll show you the file. It's a bit of a technical hassle, but you go into the files for your game and you find the replay. Not usually too hard to track down. It tells you the replay name within the game itself. You just download that, I believe it's called an SDZK or something like that file, and send it on over. Be more than happy to take a look. We do see the first clash of the commanders here. Gratamord and GD their Logi have both decided to clash here over the middle. GD their Logi having a nice little advantage by keeping the pressure up here. Light laser turrets both go down simultaneously. It's unfortunate, but not the end of the world, of course. Ugobos has also begun securing this hill, which I do like to see. Hard to say whose responsibility this hill should be, right? Does it fall to this guy holding this sector here? Does it fall to this guy up on this hill? Or should it fall to one of these backliners to get a few units out and move them up there? Now, Hovercraft, that is a bizarre unit to go for. He is making the Seekers, which I do appreciate. They are, like I've said before, the fastest harassment vehicle that you can make, but he's making them after a substantial amount of constructors and others have been pushed out. So not going to have an easy time, per se, getting into that back line of the opposing team. Jabalnik now moving his commander forward ever so slightly to contest this lane. And we do see some grunts holding the high line here. Trying to, anyway. Trying to get their efficiency off by kiting against these pawns. And for what it's worth, they're doing a phenomenal job. Was that a bit of friendly fire there? It looks like they might have accidentally shot their own brother. How unfortunate. And it looks like Mailkit has returned from being AFK, but that does mean that his lane is going to be extremely hampered. Luckily, he's not metal stalling, so he does have that metal. He just needs to convert it into some units and right quick as well, because otherwise his lane is about to get crashed down upon pretty severely. We're already seeing defenses, we're seeing some construction turrets to help with all that. All getting set up on his lane. Going to be very difficult for him to contest. Self-sacrifice of a Koom. Go up to T2. Do like to see that. It's very nice. Still on hovercraft. That's, you know, it's an interesting decision because these are more expensive than vehicles and slower on average. I say, you know, I have to put an asterisk there because the Seeker is so fast, but they're sort of an interesting unit to go for. The rocket bots are phenomenal, so if he's going to start sending those out to the front to, I guess, provide some sort of assistance, I wouldn't hate to see that. I do see some artillery here being built. Kind of an interesting gambit, but if he can hold on to it, that's going to be an excellent choice. Oh, I see. That was built by Tamias. Built by him from the back line, so I guess that's why it was a good use of resources, so to speak. Going for advanced solar is pretty close to the front line. Kind of an interesting decision, although I guess he expects that this area is pretty well fortified and not going to be given up so easily. Lee has now moved his commander over here and started claiming this area. The Bush Wookiee trying to move in, but these light laser turrets get some fire on. They're going to do a lot of damage, does he realize in time? Oh, he just barely gets out. 2% health. That's a lot of damage. I believe these light laser turrets have a bonus against commanders. Yeah, 186% bonus. So they actually do extra damage against commanders. Good to keep in mind that you do not want to push them with your commander if you can at all help it. A little bit of a skirmish happening here. Some rocket bots laying down the Daka. I love to see it. Got a nice big contingent of thugs as well. Very nice. Very sturdy. Grave robbers here helping to repair some of these units that were scuffed up on the front lines, making them bright and shiny once more. It's very nice, but you do have to be careful with those. Grave robbers are rather fragile. One of them goes down here. But this push looks like it's going to be enough to at least tear down some of that army, although at the cost of his own, and hard to say if that's really going to be worth it here. A little bit of coaching going on. It says Cave Dogs, stay in your lane. Cave Dogs is orange. Interesting. He's going for a row of these solar panels. Now this was a question I got from somebody about why these solar panels are so bad. Why I almost exclusively refuse to build these things. If you take a look at this, you have 155 metal tied up in, well, solar panels, right? If you look at something like a windmill, it's 37 metal. And so what you're getting out of this is 20 consistent energy out of 150 metal versus a fluctuating between 5 and 10 to get up to that 20 energy mark. That's sort of what we're aiming for. You would need basically 2 windmills or 4 windmills. So let's say you need 4 windmills. That's the minimum. That would still be, I mean, even if you round up to 40, you're looking at 120, and then you're looking at 160 for basically to get up to that 20. But that's on the lowest end of the wind production. So if the wind was constantly at 5, then it would be less efficient to build windmills. Of course, we round it up too, so it wouldn't actually be 160. It would be almost exactly the same. But that being said, the wind, of course, does not stay around 5. It fluctuates, and basically that's what the wind risk means. Wow. Interesting trade there. Cave Dogs decided to sacrifice his commander in order to completely wipe this top lane here. And I don't hate that at all. I think that's actually going to be a nice little bit of help. Wait a second. This was that a friendly commander? I'm very, very confused about what I just saw. We witnessed Cave Dogs push up to this ridge. Cave Dogs push up to this ridge that is controlled by Lee. Yes, Lee. And then destroy his commander. I hate to say it, Cave Dogs, but that is... I mean, that definitely, by far, constitutes a kick. Maybe even a ban. What a bizarre thing to do there. Huh. Well, bad sportsmanship all around right there. Don't know what else to say. I'm left a little bit speechless. As a commentator, that's a bit of a problem. But I can't believe we just saw that happen live on television, folks. Bringing you everything you need to know. All the BM that you could ever hope for. You see a Centurion going toe-to-toe with a commander. Kind of a funny fight because their laser weapons are pretty similar. Brings it down to 47 HP all on its own. Very nice. Yeah, I still can't believe that. There was a whole bunch of eco and everything built up here, and it just never ended up getting... Or it just ended up getting demolished by Cave Dogs, who just destroyed the commander. I mean, I know I don't have a face cam on, but you can trust me, folks. I am stunned, flabbergasted, speechless, and appalled. Malekith, or Malekith, holding on, has these nice T1 medium tanks. Very sturdy. Good for holding on to big areas of land and contesting those spots especially. But this middle area is rapidly caving in. We're seeing a lot of these gray bishop pawns pushing through now. I'm going to snag this construction turret. Always a nice pick. Also see them target up against these tanks. If you can get a good concave on the tanks or even a surround, of course that's always the best option. But if you can get that sort of shape on T1 medium tanks, the pawns actually can do a lot of damage. Definitely a decent option. Just because these tanks shoot so slowly, and also their gun has to turn around, right? So it can actually be extremely efficient. What you don't want to do is this, and just group them all up and let the commander take them out with ease. Good example of the right and the wrong way to do it there. Perfect. Still a bit shocked about what happened down here. Lee is now left with, not much metal to his name. Cave Dogs, I can see that his rank is very low, but it seems just like a bizarre move. He's going for T2. He is building Centurions, the most expensive unit out of the T1 bot lab. Queued up a ton of them as well. He's got a bunch of gunships out. They're not doing anything. He's also building out of a vehicle plant. Cave Dog's just going for whatever he feels like here, not really being a team player at all. Pawns get a nice surround on here. That's going to be a lot of damage. Looks like they're going to be able to bring down the commander. And there goes Malekith, who also does not have a production facility up. Now, of course, they don't know that, actually, if we take a look here. They don't know that he doesn't have a production facility, although they did get a scout earlier on. But that's a gleaming weak point right there that could lead all the way back to this base. And if we don't see some fiends or something coming out of this production soon from Debts, we're going to be in a lot of trouble here for the Blues team. That being said, things are looking alright here on the northern part of the map. A little bit of artillery shelling back and forth. Looks like these are just manually being fired here at what they think the enemy positions are. Well, we've got Hugo Boss, who is... Oh, that's his fortification, actually. So he's really secured a huge area here. But he's going for another tower up here on the top, another agitator. Hopefully to, or presumably to, rain down fire on the red team there, Jabolnik. Now, Dench Tai has also set up a nice little fortification here. He's got a bot lab pushed all the way up to the front. That's very nice to see. He's also got a T1 and T2 bot lab back here. I would love to see him eat up this T1 bot lab back here. Not really a reason to run both simultaneously. You're just splitting the metal between the two, and that's not really efficient per se, but can't really blame him at the same time. It's very difficult to micromanage all that. A few units coming out of green here, who looks like he is just finishing up his T2 factory, and we're going to go for T2 constructors. I think it's a good idea for him to pump out a few fiends before he goes for the constructors, just for the safety of knowing that his opponent does have a bunch of units out on the field. Or does he know that? In fact, we should check. You know, he just barely gets a glimpse of how big that army actually is down there, and yes, indeed, he pulls down some of his units to try and cover that area, but honestly, there's not a whole lot he can do. We do see Malekith working on a little bit of energy converters, trying to sort of rebuild this base, but he's so far destroyed that it's going to be really difficult for him to rebuild, at least in any timely manner. Confused about the general strategy of Cave Dogs, but I suppose learning is the name of the game here, so hopefully there's a lot to learn. Maybe he didn't realize that by destroying his friendly commander, he would cause a chain reaction that would make them both explode. Of course, his teammate probably wasn't expecting him to come right up and detonate him. Doesn't make much sense. You see these gauntlets here. Love to see these being set into high trajectory mode. That'd be very nice. And the gunships finally make a surprise appearance here. They are difficult to use in the late game, but they found a very niche and opportunistic moment to come in here and strike. No AA has been built because, well, no airstrikes have been done, so there was no incentive for this team to build AA. A little bit of SAM turrets here, so that's nice. These gunships are going to have a harder time going that way. But there's no reason they couldn't go this way and tear down some of this while they're at it. Well, there was an aircraft plane here, but no fighters. So, they don't really have a counter for these gunships quite yet. But they also don't have a counter for 12 grunts, or rather 12 pawns running in and taking all that over. Yep, that's going to be the end of this base as well. Really unfortunate for this Blues team. You know, they had this one player that disconnected, and that was really unfortunate to see. But then this detonation up top, although it must have been distracting for Lee to deal with and rather cumbersome, it does mean that he was the one that put resurrection bots up there, so he benefited from having almost 4,000 metal in that bizarre exchange. We do see some SAM turrets built up now, so the light gunships are not going to be able to push into that area. It's not without heavy casualties. And these are slowly tearing down these defenses over here. Again, looks like they're just being manually targeted, but they will eventually hit whatever they're looking for. Be lovely to see some vision coming out of anybody with an air lab, which basically comes down to cave dogs, sorry. But whether or not he would help with that, I don't know. Doesn't seem like the kind of player with the APM to spare on using his scroll wheel to zoom out like this and take a look at where he would be needed most. Seems more interested in pumping units out as many at a time as fast as he can. We do finally see T2 coming out for Lee. It's very nice to see. There's a ton of metal right here. I'd love to see him reclaim some of that. He does have the reclaim bots to spare somewhere. No, he has them. There they are. And indeed, in fact, he's going to resurrect. Also a good option. Probably will be able to push the front line far enough with the units that he finds, units that he reclaims. The Centurion's not a bad option against these flamers. They actually end up working pretty well. As you can see here in this little engagement, they work better when they're spread out, of course, because the Fiends have some AoE to their attack, so they can take a better advantage of grouped up units. But when they're spread out like that, you can see their units, or rather their lasers, concentrate much, much nicer. Now the pawns sneaking around here, they do find this energy converter, setting it ablaze, destroying it. That's interesting. I've never seen an energy converter stay intact after being detonated. That is interesting. Enough of a distraction, though, that these units can push even further forward. And they will. Will be enough, though. These fiends are coming in from all sides, and they do put out a tremendous amount of damage, especially when you're surrounded. You get that surround bonus, as well as all that AoE splashing off to all the units around. And I think most of these are going to be mopped up. But the metal production is now down because all of those energy converters went down. It's like focusing here on the anti-nuke. I don't think he has enough, though, unfortunately. And what do some of the other fronts on this battlefield look like? Seems like we're mostly building up a whole lot of defenses here, which is not ideal. You really want to switch into making units, because although these defenses are very nice, they are going to be torn down by this other artillery, and also those defenses aren't going to win you the game. When you see that your southern flank has fallen, what you really need to do is secure some sort of victory on the northern side. That way it's sort of an even trade. But right now the pressure is just looming, and these units are slowly going to start collapsing in on the Blues team. Take a sip of that lovely Dr. Pepper. Not sponsored, but how cool would that be? All those different flavors sending me their money to give them a delicious shout out. We do see green now, Grotmord, trying to hold on against this wave of pawns, but it's just not enough. You can see that he has the T2 artillery, but it's all clumped up together, so they can't really get an efficient shot off. And those pawns manage to break through and cause a good amount of damage. They don't manage to kill this bulwark or any of the constructors working on it, so that might go up. It's at 81%. We're getting close there. Mostly just holding on to the front line here, and that's not really what you want to do. I think if, as a player here, you have to start looking at this and thinking, okay, my bottom, the southern side is almost entirely destroyed. Usually that means that that side is going to be pushed even harder by all these players, but it looks like most of these players right now are just taking advantage of that pressure being relieved from them and ecoing up. You know, there's an old saying from StarCraft, but I'm sure it resonates through all real-time strategy games, and it's when you're ahead, get more ahead. You know, more stuff beats less stuff. It's always true. Now, this is a slight inefficiency on Detz's part. He does have 3 fusion reactors. I would love to see him converting these into an advanced fusion reactor. At least 2 of them, anyway. It's be a nice little efficiency boost for him, just to get something up and running. Instead, he's going to focus on a little bit of static defense. I don't mind it, since he's likely going to be the most pressured out of all of his teammates here. His flank, or rather his entire front, being entirely exposed. I wonder what we have in the banks back here. We do see a few of these T2 blizzards, these bombers. What are they called? Blizzards? Yeah, strategic bombers coming out. We also see a whole lot of, well, a whole lot of constructors on a T2 air plant, but I don't see what they've been producing. He still has all these plants out, by the way. He's got a vehicle plant just producing random T1 garbage. He's got the T1 air lab and the T1 bot lab over here, as you can see. Really interesting. Not very focused. I don't really appreciate that. I like a more clean-cut strategy, not a everything all-in-one type of strategy. Det saying, get out of here, resign. Even though I'm not sure if he's talking to his team or if he's trying to intimidate the enemy team. But this is interesting, nonetheless. It looks like Detz is very well aware of the precarious situation that he's in. Focusing on eco a little bit, but mainly making sure he has enough army to hold off whatever push is headed his way. And a push is headed his way. You can see these medium Centurions, or rather these medium infantry bots called Centurions, as well as a couple of resurrected thugs, some grunts, and I always get those mixed up, the grunts and the pawns. Pawns rather than grunts. And the fat boys are rolling out. Now, the fat boys, of course, lob their tremendous projectile, so they are going to tear through this army of fiends really quickly. So hopefully those fiends can get some efficient hits, or at least remain spread out. Up north, we do see a little bit of aggression, some hover tanks pushing in. This is why you don't typically go hover tanks. They can be outmaneuvered by almost anything else in the game. At least when you're moving them across solid land. Sort of an interesting decision there. What does the economy back here look like? Wind. Looks like wind. A lot of wind power there, and frankly, one bomber, maybe two, would be just devastating to Timaeus' entire production strategy. Denshtai does have a fusion reactor up, but look at all these solar panels. This is what I'm talking about. When you have all these solar panels here, you're like, you know, they don't take up that much space, and even if they do, it wouldn't be worth reclaiming them. Almost 1,400 metal in solar panels sitting around right there. I mean, that would pay for this reactor. Now, granted, he is actually stalling on energy, not on metal. Jeez, that was difficult for me to find the word. I'm confused. I'm stalling because I'm confused why he's only producing 755 out of 8. Oh, this is a decoy fusion reactor. Okay. So he's not actually producing any energy out of that. It fooled me. I guess it's a good decoy. Oh, look at those projectiles land, just tearing apart that entire army. They're going to retreat slightly so that they don't get torn apart by the static defenses that were thrown down. But man, those fiends took a heavy hit from all those fat boys. Now we see a bunch of rocket spiders coming back. Not really necessary because, well, this terrain is crossable by bots, vehicles, whatever else, but I guess it's an interesting move. Just glad to see something coming out. Any amount of pressure applied is good pressure. Yeah, it looks like he's just spamming out a whole bunch of these rocket bots. They are very cool, and they're very good for sieging. They actually have a pretty long range, so you can get quite a bit out of them. We see now a artillery push coming out here. These Sheldons doing quite a bit of work. Very flexible unit to use because they can move so quickly and outmaneuver a lot of this stuff. But also put out enough damage in numbers that they can really harass some of these units quite deadly. Quite frenziedly? Quite toughly? Not quite sure the right word there, but I'm sure you all understand the meaning. Do see some hounds coming up here, and honestly quite a good fight. You know, this is sort of the... This is the hard part, right? If you were to compare this to chess, this is where you have to close the game. You've put them in check, you're 4 moves away, and you need to figure out what the right move is in order to cause enough damage to end the game here. So you're trying to figure it out, it's difficult to see. Right now, what I see is a lot of anti-air and a lot of static defenses here. So maybe what would be a good idea is to flood a bunch of pawns through here, or a bunch of ticks, some sort of light, small unit, to basically waste the shots from all of these static defense turrets. And then you can move in with the rocket spiders, and they'll be able to actually land a few shots. Or you could send one big heavy unit down here and hope that it makes it through, although with the bulwark going up, that's probably going to be even less possible. Of course, the other option is to just bring a rocket bot down here and fire 2 or 3 rockets into this clump of construction turrets and the reactors. You're going to get a nice effect. A lot of options strategically, but it's important that you scout out what that base is so that you can actually approach it properly. Big clump of fat boys being recycled into a siege unit here. I don't hate it one bit. Their fire is oppressive, downright destructive. We see some Sheldons up on the ridge, laying down artillery fire. Blue's army has been pushed back, or I should say his presence has been pushed back off of the middle of this map. I do like these Twitchers coming out here to reclaim some of it. Always nice to see that. Reclaim is very important in the late game, the middle game, and the early game. Guess that just makes it important all around, huh? Reclaim very important because it allows you to make those big steps, right? You're looking into teching to T2, to T3. Where are you going to pull that metal out of thin air? Well, no, you pulled it out of the battlefield that was all left there on the front. Kind of easy to forget that all that metal is just sitting there on the ground, but it's important not to. Important to take advantage of it when you can. These hounds pushing bravely into these fat men here. Fat boys. Well, it gets one shot off and it's enough to just absolutely cripple that collection of hounds. That pack of hounds, that seems like the right word. We do see a little bit of anti-air here. In fact, a lot of anti-air here. Going to be very annoying on these T2 bombers, which end up targeting the light defenses. We have a geothermal power plant, so that would be a nice thing to target, but unfortunately they really just get a bunch of light laser turrets, which frankly are going to be able to be thrown up really easily once again. That's why I recommend, and if you're checking this out, I hope you take this advice to heart, cheaty hacks. Make some scouts. You absolutely need them, especially if you're going to bomb. You would have known exactly where the weak points are here, and you would have known that there was so much anti-air that it wouldn't even really have been worth bombing. As opposed to bombing something like this back here, or this huge collection of solar panels, rather wind turbines. Advanced fusion reactor coming up here. Scouting any of this would be just absolutely tremendous. And we do see a huge wave of these rocket spiders being built up over here, and I do like to see that. Wouldn't mind like a variation of a few other units, maybe some snipers mixed in there. That would be a nice little unit to tag along just to get that guaranteed damage. But rocket spiders will do just fine for this purpose, and I wouldn't hate seeing them pushed up onto this cliffside here and maneuvered around this way. Cave Dog's working on a advanced fusion reactor with just 3 construction aircraft. That's 300 build power. You can see it's going to be done in 12 minutes. Might be worth investing in a little more build power there. Recycles his tier 1 aircraft plant. Not sure about that one. But it is interesting. I mean, this game, I would solidly hand it to the Eastern team. Or sorry, I would solidly hand it to the Western team, not the Eastern team. Except for the fact that the Western team seems extremely unconfident in what they want to do. They can't really decide on what strategy they want to go for, and so they end up just sort of pushing into fortified areas and essentially just pushing where the enemy wants them to push into. Kind of just creating their own problems. It's an inefficient, grind them down way to win the game, and I think eventually they're going to secure it, but it will take quite a bit longer than a few precise strikes here and there. Another interesting thing that scouting might reveal are holes in the anti-nuke field. For instance, right here, you see the circles do not overlap, and there's a new one coming up, but it's not up yet. I don't know if we see any nukes out yet. Looks like there's one being built right now. That's exactly the kind of thing that you would want to scout, so you know exactly where to put that nuke. And indeed, this would be a great place to take the nuke down, put the nuke down. So you take out a T2 factory for one player, and a T2 and T1 factory for a second player. Now this lane has been held tremendously, but it hasn't been pushed very well, which is sort of unfortunate, because really it has been held with such ferocity, but just not utilized to any super effective extent. And I understand that there's a lot of fortification here, but this is exactly the kind of place where you'd want to use some rocket bots, just like Jabalnik is using right now. You can see him harassing away up here, just going for whatever he can. He targets the geothermal. That's a nice hit. Yeah, they're discussing what happened earlier, where Lee was trying to capture some of the stuff that Cave Dogs had gone for up here, sort of Cave Dogs expanding indiscriminately, and I'm gonna have to go side with Lee here. You know, he was the one that was holding this line. Cave Dogs just building a lot of units and sending them up there, and then randomly sends a construction vehicle up there, or a construction aircraft up there to go and, I don't know, try and steal it, I guess. It's sort of a bad-mannered move, and if you're going to do that, you have to at least communicate about it, because you're just going to cause confusion, disarray, and unhappiness with your teammates, which really ruins it from the start. Now, luckily, his teammates were good enough to push an advantage and still secure the win here, but everyone would have felt a whole lot worse if they were losing this game, and it also happened to be that that bad mannerism came out as well. I will talk to Cave Dogs after the match. A lot of times when people do that, it's either because they're new to the game and they don't know what's going on, and so it's nice to just not in the public chat, but just message them on the side and just, you know, ask like, hey, do you know why everyone was angry at you, or what was going on? Like, just make sure, just check on them, make sure that they're not confused, because a lot of times people will get angry because they did something that people were angry about, but they didn't really know, you know, exactly what was actually going on, why people were so frustrated. And so it's important to make sure that you keep track of your own temper and make sure. And, you know, I can be hypocritical about that too. Sometimes my temper will fly just as hot. I get heated about the unique decisions that some of these players make, but it's important to remember that we're all community, we're all learning together. Everybody's just here to have a good time. You know, every huge range of players that play bar, and I do love to see this, these spiders climbing up the hill. Sorry, bit of a quick tone change there, but I'll stop giving you my philosophy and tell you about the game happening right in front of our eyes. The spiders now bypassing this fortified zone. They finally realize it's not worth the trouble of fighting that, and instead they just begin to go around. And we do see some Razorbacks with a contingent of Fat Boys. That might just be enough to push through and do enough damage to this front line, although there's so much here. We have 2 bulwarks here, 2 bulwarks there, a ton of these Sabo batteries. We have some SAM anti-air turrets. We have all these fusions and what are they called? Energy converters going up as well. We have the plasma deflector. Just, I mean, if there was a picture of a turtle in Beyond All Reason, if you wanted to paint a picture of a turtle in Beyond All Reason, this is what you would paint. And we'll see how long it holds out. I mean, it is a crashing wave that is once again wearing down against his defenses, but who knows? Maybe it'll be enough. I do like that, sending these pawns forward. Gonna waste some of those shots. It won't waste all of them, but it'll waste enough of them. These Razorbacks getting to work here, but those Sabo batteries are so brutal. Yeah, I think probably a little bit more of a jointed attack here by these Fat Boys and the Razorbacks would have been a little bit better. There's a way to coordinate this, but it's so tricky because it really is just a tremendous amount of DPS here. Cave Dog's very upset that Lee was reclaiming his base or his buildings. Although it was up here where Lee had claimed, so yeah, I don't know. I think the popular vote is going to go to Lee here, Cave Dogs. I think you got to just give up on this one. You know, Obama says democracy is a compromise, even when you're 100% correct. And I don't think you're correct here, but I think it's time for you to compromise. Realize that people weren't exactly on your side here. And there, you know, it wasn't just because of who you are. You know, there was a reason for it. We do see these spiders here making it to the back, and it looks like Detz is the last one remaining. He's built such a fortification that he wants to go down fighting, even though I don't think there's going to be a tremendous amount that he can do. His base is going to hold on, though. I mean, these turrets do a whole lot of damage. It's going to be annoying for the enemy team to push into this, but maybe they'll find some kind of way. Something happened over here. I think there might have been a self-destruction, or... Oh, no, it looks like Lee is harassing Cave Dogs. Oh, well, that's not cool. Alright, we're retracting our support for Lee. Now he's just being a bit of a prick. Tearing down Lee's, or rather, Cave Dog's buildings. Yeah, that's the wrong way to handle that. Shame on both of them. You know, they really should be working together here. Wouldn't be surprised if these gunships just start, like, firing on his stuff. They're having a lot of internal issues, a lot of marital issues. Sorry, that distracted me from the action over here. The gunships were enough to finally push through, tear down all the eco, and end this game. Where is the final commander? Ah, it looks like it's over here. There's a single rocket bot that has an angle, and the others are trying to fire. This is a problem the rocket bots have a lot, is that they don't quite understand how firing dynamics work. But that is going to be the end of the game. And I guess we know which setup works better if you're going to choose the wrong spawn locations in Koom Valley. See the team stats here. Kind of an interesting graph. Dark Ghost taking the lead at the very end there. Lee had the lead until he sort of dropped off, maybe just focused on unit production instead. But that was quite an interesting one. I really hate to see that bickering between teammates there. Sort of unfortunate. This was a retaliation attack, a friendly retaliation attack, and that's no good to see. So shame on both of those players. You see them in the lobby, give them a thumbs down, tell them boo for their performance. Well, not their performance. I suppose they performed fine, but rather their poor sportsmanship. But I do hope you enjoyed the match, otherwise. And now you know where to spawn on Koom Valley. I'll see you all in the next one. Stay tuned for more content, and have a great rest of your day.